I'm here with Scott Anthony. He's the managing partner of Innosight. We're here at the Gallen Symposium, and this year's topic is growth, the good, the bad and the ugly. What comes to your mind for this topic in just 2 sentences?
Well, the good part of growth is it enables lots of opportunities. The bad part of growth is the cost that it entails on our society. The ugly part of growth is it is really hard, particularly, ironically, the more successful you are as an organization, the bigger you are, the harder you sometimes fall and often stall. So this can be one of the greatest challenges that leaders have today.
Well, thank you very much. And you personally are an expert for strategy, growth and innovation. So would you say that innovation is the driver for future economic growth?
It absolutely has to be. If you trace history, growth always comes from innovation, and there's all sorts of things that are promising to transform the world today, to disrupt the world today. And for leaders, that sounds kind of scary. Disruption itself is a scary word. Your face contorts when you say it, but disruption drives growth, it drives performance, and the new waves of growth that will come from today's disruption, I believe, will change our world in a very positive way.
So what do you think is the next disruptive innovation?
Well, there are 5 things that we're watching closely. We're watching the rise of robots and drones. We're looking at the disappearance of computing, where you have computing in smart connected devices. We're looking at additive manufacturing / 3D printing. We're looking at the science of life, where you can self-manage yourself. And of course, everything as a service and the platform or sharing economy. These are things that I think are present and are affecting every industry around the globe.
And do you also think that for growth there are other drivers than innovation?
Of course. I think you also have perseverance and grit and people working hard. I think you also have some of the basic factors where you're able to, over time, learn how to do things better. You sometimes, in some economies, have just the natural transitions where you go from agriculture to industrial to service to whatever comes beyond service. So there are a bunch of things that go into growth as well. And of course, governments have a big role to play too.
And you're currently based in Asia, so what do you think where do you think growth is located in the future years?
I moved out to Singapore in 2010 because being an American, certainly I think there's a lot of growth that will still come from America and from Europe. But if you look at where the population is, you look at where the emerging middle economy is, the emerging middle class is, it's in the areas that are close to where I live. So it's China, it's India, it's Indonesia, it's the Philippines. There is huge potential in these markets to really grow and give birth to the next wave of innovators that will transform the world.
But what do you think are the differences between those countries you've mentioned?
The one thing you realize immediately when you get to Asia is how radically diverse it is. Even within those countries, India, as Winston Churchill says, is a concept. It's not a country. There are so many different pockets within it. So you've got people who come from different demographic backgrounds, who have different religions, who look at the world in a different way. It's one of the things that you really don't fully appreciate about Asia until you're there. And for those people outside of Asia that are trying to figure out how to win, you have to go there. And you have to not just go to the fancy hotels and drive around in black cars, but you have to really go there. Because when you see it and touch it with your eyes and hands, it's just very different than what you imagined.
And how do you think you can see those differences in innovation then?
So it's interesting, in innovation historically, Asia was known as the land of replication. It wasn't the place where real innovations came. But we're increasingly seeing that business model innovations are being housed and originating in Asia. As an example, some of the big internet giants that are coming out of China, Tencent is one example, aren't just replicating what people in the US did, they're coming up with very new inventive ways to build businesses. So I think increasingly you're going to see big business model innovations come out of Asia. Secondly, of course, because you've got the middle and the bottom of the economic pyramid that exists in Asia, many of what are known as frugal innovations that go after that part of the economic pyramid, they're going to have to come out of Asia. And I think finally you are going to increasingly see, as you have second and third generation entrepreneurs in Asia, true capital I invention coming out of Asia as well. It really will shift the balance of innovation from the West to the East.
And so how do you then assess the situation of the West when you say everything moves to the East?
I don't think everything will. So I think what you're going to have is something where it's been like this that will become more of a balance. So I think we will have a world where North America continues to play an important role, Europe plays an important role, and Asia really is a strong third leg of the stool. And if you look back in history, this is the way the world economy was 150 years ago. China and India were true global powers that have atrophied over that time. When you've got 1.3 and 1.2 billion people respectively in those markets, well, naturally nature will take its course.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.